All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Daily Daryl Conversations with Gretchen Morgan. This is going to be take 3. Had a few little bugs with the software that we're using to boost this out to Facebook Live. That software is called Blue Jeans, and I am not yet a master at it, but we typically work it out in the end. And so if you bared with us, thanks for bearing with us. And we're going to get started again. And since we've rehearsed a couple of times, we're going to be even better at this than we would have been normally. So I was going to tell you, in full disclosure, Gretchen and I are good friends. Her husband and myself and my fiance are good friends. We do lots of things together. We haven't gotten to play golf yet together, but I'm sure that's coming real soon. I want to ask you, if you're watching on Facebook Live, if you'll share this out. If you want to enlist in our army of people who are attempting to end distracted driving, please join with us and share this out to your friends. Also, you can find us on all the other platforms at Daryl T, Dixon Law, and we will repurpose this and use this so that we can spread it out to other people. I'm thinking we got this right now. I've just gotten a text message from my boss saying that we got it right. And without any further ado, let's welcome in our guest today and distracted driving expert, Gretchen Morgan. Hello, Gretchen. How are you today?
I'm great, Daryl. How are you?
I'm good. It's been lovely chatting with you for the last couple of minutes, even though it was just me and you. It didn't quite get out to Facebook Live.
That's okay.
But anyway, we roll with the punches. And Gretchen, I was going to start off and just ask you, how did you get started in law enforcement? And just tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I started a little later than some. I started when I was 27 years old. So in 2003, I made the decision. It was actually a decision that I made when I was 4 years old, that I wanted to be a police officer. Of course, no one took me seriously until I got a little older. But so about 14 years I've been in law enforcement here with the Paducah Police Department. About 12 of those years I've spent in patrol. So people would have seen me around about the city in my cruiser doing what a police officer does. And then the chief of police approached me. I was doing a lot of community events anyway. And he approached me and he said, we're doing a really poor job of educating our community about the dangers out there of everything, distracted driving, social media, bullying, just anything. And he said, I really think that we need somebody to be the liaison between the community and the department. And so he created my position, which is officially called Community Resource Officer. And I was excited about the position, and I did a lot of work in the schools anyway, but I never dreamed of how fast it would take off. I thought no one's going to call and want a police officer, to come and talk to them. But I get calls almost daily of somebody wanting, whether it's to go to a preschool class, which I was at this morning, or to come to a senior citizens group and talk to them about, maybe gun laws, or what to do if you're in an active shooter situation. It's a whole gambit of topics that we talk about, and it really shocked me. Like I said, I get calls. I've had calls today to schedule for the next week. So it's been a pretty cool area that I've been able to branch out into.
Well, you bring up something very important. You talk about gun laws. Obviously, that's very big in our area. Staunch supporters of the Second Amendment around here, and
Sure.
Also bullying. I know you do some stuff on bullying, so it's not just distracted driving that you work with.
No, not at all. There's, people will call and they'll come with a topic out of the blue. I've got a company that I'm going to visit next week, a private company, and they want to talk about local drug trends. What are the drug trends here in our area? And so we get something together for them just to educate them as a company and as parents, because they can go home and share that with their kids.
Nice. So how many with your job, and what was your job again? What was the title?
Community Resource Officer.
And as the community resource, you're basically the face of the Paducah Police Department, and so you administer these programs. How many programs would you be running at any one time?
Oh my goodness, as many as they need me to do. Okay. I've got 3 or 4 that I typically do quite a bit. The distracted driving program is kind of my baby. The bullying, I do that quite a bit. Drug trends is pretty popular, and I tell you the biggest one, or one that's gaining a lot of popularity, is dangers on social media, because kids are unfortunately making some poor choices and on social media, and that's following them throughout their adulthood. And so we're really having a lot of requests for that here recently.
Absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong. If we've got high school, college kids watching, don't put anything on social media that you wouldn't want, your employer or your grandmother to read 5 years from now, because right. If most employers, I know we do it here and probably most do it everywhere. If they do their due diligence in hiring, we're going to go straight to that Facebook page and see what kind of person you are.
Yep. Your Facebook, your Twitter, Instagram accounts. I mean, that's the first thing an employer looks at. And, if you're not going to represent their company or firm well, if a law firm, then they're not going to give you a second look. So I tell the story to my high school kids. There was a basketball player that was doing very, very well, being recruited by some really big schools. And he tweeted some rap lyrics that were, had some racial connotations to them. And some of those schools that were recruiting him pulled their offers because of that. So, it's just, you have to be very careful.
Yeah. And that's an awful expensive offer. If it's a 4-year offer for a major sport, I know, I think one of the Kentucky running backs has been putting out some music videos on Twitter. And I think his coach had him take them down yesterday. So it's something you really got to be careful with.
Yeah, you really do.
But really what we wanted to come here today, and we could do shows later on gun laws and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, be very interested in that, especially in the wake of what's happening with the current events. I think I would be remiss, though, if I didn't get your opinion on the events of yesterday. I didn't get to see too much of it yesterday while I was at work, but I did watch quite a bit of it last night. And so I guess the question, basically these capital city police, 2 of them, basically prevented a massacre. And if you could just talk a little bit about that and give us a police officer's insight on that.
It's, our job has changed as police officers within the last couple of years with light of everything that's happened across the nation. So we are probably more alert than ever now to our surroundings. And, thank goodness for those Capitol Police, because from what I heard this morning, the gentleman that did this asked a specific question, are these Republicans, I think was the question that he asked. And luckily they were, very in tune to that. And, luckily fewer people were, there weren't more people hurt than what happened. So thank goodness they were there and on alert, just like we have to be all the time now.
Yeah, it's just, the magnitude of what happened yesterday is just, I know some of the TV outlets were calling it an assassination attempt, and it really was. And it's really the first time that this, homegrown, I don't really want to call this terrorism, because this is just more radicalism, political radicalism, someone who just doesn't like the face of our politics right now, which, we have First Amendment rights so that things like this don't happen. And it was just, it was very sad. But in the end, it's a heroic story. Haven't really heard to see how the congressman is doing today, the whip. But it was just, so thankful that no one died from that. And it's like you said, your jobs have changed and all that. And so, but that's a topic that we will come back and get to. Gun laws, it's so important right now and around here, and especially with the crazy things happening. But today we came here to talk about distracted. It's something that's really grown close to my heart. I had some good influences in my life, like yourself and some other friends who have taught me about this. And really, it came full circle to me lately when I bought a Jeep. And there's no way you can drive a Jeep and talk on the phone because they usually have the top down. And so I started putting that phone in the console, and I was like, you know what? I didn't miss anything.
Right.
I enjoyed, I listened to a little talk radio. I listened to sports talk radio. If you know me, I'm usually riding around town jamming K-Love, unlike most people. But I didn't miss anything during that time, and I was like, you know what? Now is the time to make that pledge and decide that you're not going to do distracted driving. So why don't you just take us through a little bit how you would open a program with high school students or senior citizens or whatever, and maybe give us a definition of distracted driving.
Sure. To give a little bit of a backstory, my very best friend, Hillary Coltharp, was injured in 2007 in a distracted driving collision. She was just texting and driving, lost control of her car. It rolled multiple times across I-24. She was ejected. She also didn't have her seatbelt on, so there's another topic for you. She was ejected, landed, and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And throughout, it's 10 years later, or just short of 10 years later, and she will never be the same. She's still here with us today, but she definitely has trials and tribulations. Still goes to therapy 5 days a week, even 10 years later. So she's actually the one that reached out to me during her recovery and said, hey, I think I need to share this story. And so she and I have traveled across the country, actually, telling her story, which is extremely impactful to hear her talk about it. And so that kind of sparked some interest here locally and, like I said, nationally. And so we go to the schools. I talk about our friendship and how it's changed over the last 10, 15 years. And then she comes out and she shares her story. And, her walk is labored. Her speech is definitely labored. And so it's really, she puts the truth in it. There is, you actually see her. You can hear her talk, and so she's in their face, is what I say. You see commercials and things, and it's like, oh, that's not real. But when you see her walk across the stage, very labored with her cane, it's a little more impactful. And so usually when she walks across that stage, you can hear a pin drop, no matter where we are. I can be in an auditorium full of thousands, high school kids, and it's crickets, because their attention is drawn to her. And so it's been very well received. I was in the drive-thru at McDonald's the other day, and the girl handed me my drink, said, how's your sister? They think she's my sister, but they said, how's Hillary doing? And I said, oh, she's doing well. And she's been graduated from high school for several years now. So, it's left an impact on some of these kids that watch that. And Hillary will tell you, if I can change one behavior, I've done my job. She said, because I don't want anybody to follow in my footsteps of everything that she's had to go through. And so that's kind of how that program started out. And then, like I said, we've also added the component too of putting people in golf carts. We'll set up a course at a school or something. We'll set up a golf course or a golf cart and set the course up, and we'll put kids in there, and I'll jump in there with them, and I'll say, okay, send a text or Snapchat is big with kids right now.
Okay, huge.
They're doing that when they're driving too. So I'll say, okay, send a snap to your best buddy. And then as they're trying to maneuver that golf cart and they maybe hit a cone or something, I'll say, hey, you just hit a cone back there. That could have represented another car or a mailbox that you just hit. We set up stop signs. You wouldn't believe the number of stop signs that those kids run because they're so focused on that phone. They even stop. Sometimes they do stop at the stop sign, but they sit there for 5 minutes because they're trying to manipulate that phone. And when you're driving, I tell people driving is a multitasking event all by itself. You've got to you've got to drive, you've got to steer the steering wheel, you've got to put pressure on the gas pedal, you've got to watch your surroundings, and then if you throw in a cell phone in that, I mean, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And unfortunately, we're seeing that more and more here in Paducah. More collisions that involve distracting. And when I say distracted driving, I'm not talking about cell phones. The kid that's crying in the back seat, that's a distraction. The ladies that throw their purse in the back seat and then they think, oh, I need something in there, and they're reaching back trying to grab something. A dog or a cat in the car with you, jumping around can be a distraction. Other passengers in the car can be distracting to you. So it's not just we talked about before we went live, going through the drive-through and grabbing a cheeseburger and a drink, and you've got a cheeseburger in one hand and your soda in the other, and you're trying to drive with your knee. And I mean, we're just distracted. We're just in a hurry all the time, and it's a disaster that's just seconds away.
That brings up another question. The earbuds, typically like the earbuds that I'm wearing right now, is that lawful to be able to put these in and talk on a phone or listen to music or something like that?
It is lawful. However, I remind people that you've got to be able to hear around you as well. If someone's honking at you or emergency equipment is coming behind you and you need to pull over to yield to them, don't have it so blaringly loud that you can't hear, your other surroundings. People ask me, they say, is it okay to talk on the phone? And, the way our laws are written now, it's legal for you to talk on the phone while you're driving. However, when you're carrying on a conversation while driving, you're still distracted because many times you're focusing on what that person is saying, and sometimes not the roadway. So my best advice is to put everything down and pay attention to the road, and carry on a conversation with your passenger, your significant other. I know you talked about listening to the radio in your Jeep. If your kids are in the car, just chat with them about their day, or ask your significant other how their day went, and keep your attention focused in front of you instead of in your ears and on your phone.
Yeah, because we talked about coming into the program, we wanted to enlist an army of people who will go out there and basically lead by example. So there's not that many people that ride in my car unless I'm playing taxi cab with the nieces and nephews or whatever. But when they are, if they can see me putting that phone in the console, then they, again, it's what you said, is leading by example. And so, but I think your program, one of the parts that I really love, because you know that I've coached high school students for a number of years and basketball in general for 17 years, but and I have done the distracted driving seminar a couple of times, through my Trial Lawyers Association, and would be interested in doing that some more. But I think it's very, very interesting and very fascinating to me that you guys are seeking out schools to go out there and talk to these students. Sure. Because like you said, it can be intimidating sometimes when an officer walks in and they've got the guns or she and has the the big belt and everything and the shiny shoes. And it can be a little bit intimidating, but when you're there. So talk a little bit about the high school students and how are they receiving this?
Of course, a lot of times when I go, I am in uniform, and then sometimes when I go, I throw a little kink in the chain. I'll go in plain clothes, and then during my presentation, the picture behind me will pop up, and it'll be me in uniform. And because sometimes when they see an officer come in, they'll shut down completely and not want to listen, or they're too busy worried about if I'm the police officer that pulled them over last week, So normally they are pretty receptive. And since we've been going to the schools, the kids have become a little more open to approaching us just to either say, hey, or, hey, I saw your program, or I've seen you on Facebook. I've seen you here. It's really helped kind of open that line of communication.
Again, everybody that's listening out there, mine and Gretchen's goal as we started today was enlist an army of people that would help us in distracted driving. So if you're listening right now and you have any questions for Gretchen, please type them into the Facebook application there. I know I've seen a number of people that we know and that are watching and hopefully enjoying the content. But if you have any pressing questions, let us know because she'd be happy to answer them. I may not ask all the good questions. And so, Gretchen, I do have what I think would be a good place to start with some what are the top 5 frequently asked questions that you receive on distracted driving?
Oh, good. On distracted driving. I thought you were going to say as in police work. And I thought, oh, feel bad. On distracted driving, one of them is it illegal for me to talk on the phone? And no, it is not, unless you're under the age of, I think it's 18. Don't quote me on that. If you have that intermediate license, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to use your phone. But yes, it is legal for you to talk on the phone while you're driving, but definitely texting. And then when we say texting, it's basically any form of communication. So if you are on Facebook and you are, writing a post, that's a form of communication. So that falls into that category. Instagram, same thing. It's a form of communication. Snapchat. So it's not texting. We have a lot of people ask, how do you know that we're texting and we're not just dialing a number? Well, I'm not going to turn all our trade secrets out, but we have ways of watching your hand movements and things like that when you're in a car. And if you're dialing a number, you're probably not going to be typing more than 10 digits or so. That's kind of another tool we use. It is very difficult to see when people are texting, in a car. It is hard for us, but we definitely.
That was going to be one of my follow-up questions was if I've got my phone down here and I'm texting, which I'm going to be very honest, I used to do that. I used to do it a lot, and not until I basically, took the pledge a month or so ago that I wasn't going to do that anymore, and I wasn't. But I think you answered a great question there. It doesn't matter if you're Facebooking or Snapchatting. The one that scares me to death is when you see somebody with the phone up here, basically making a video of themselves, and I'm sure that falls under the unlawful part of that. And that's the scary one. And then you see that on Snapchat, you see that on Instagram. So maybe, a question that I had come up on a text here is you see someone next to you texting. If you're at a stoplight or God forbid you're driving down the road and you look over and see somebody texting, what do you do?
It's a great question. It actually happened to me. I was in Tennessee, which Tennessee is actually a hands-free state, so you can't do anything in Tennessee. But I was traveling. This person was in front of me all over the road, almost hit several cars. And so what I did was I picked up the phone and I called 911. And it connected me with that local law enforcement. Obviously, I was not in my jurisdiction. I wasn't on duty or anything. They connected me with the local jurisdiction who caught up with that vehicle, and I turned it over to the authorities there who took care of it. They were able to see the driving, and she was stopped on up the road a little bit. So if you see something going on like that, pick up the phone and call. Let us know. We can't always catch them, but we definitely give it a try.
It's like anything else. It's it's intelligence. It's gathering intelligence. People
Right.
help you out. We talked about the incident yesterday. Had people not started calling 911. Congressmen laying in a dugout, dialing 911, and
Right.
so I think if we do get this army we're talking about, and they do enlist in the distracted driving. What I guess Gretchen and I are both trying to tell everybody watching today is, don't wait till something tragic happens, like what happened to Gretchen and her best friend. I know back, I can't even remember when, but I'll just go ahead and confess some of my sins. But I can remember being out by the mall before there was earbuds, and talking on my phone, and the next thing I know, I'm running a red light.
Sure.
And thank God that I didn't hit someone or because it could, that what I was doing, although it may not have been then, it's a crime now. And so that's why, everybody, you hear it, there's so much talk. Now, I did see a stat the other day that really shocked me, because you hear so much about drunk driving. And I think people are really starting to get that way, at least in our area.
Sure.
You look, we did a bunch of stuff on it over the Memorial Day holiday, and it looks like, fatalities, you might know the numbers better than I, but they were down statewide, which is awesome. And but it seems like the stat I saw was that in fatality cases, it's more often a distracted driver than it is a drunk driver. And if you have the stats on that, please tell us.
I don't have the nationwide numbers, but I know last year from 2016, I pulled them right before we came on air. I pulled the Paducah numbers, and that's just the city of Paducah. That doesn't include McCracken County Sheriff's Department. It's just Paducah City. We investigated 124 collisions during that year that had to do with some form of distraction. And I know you think, oh, that doesn't sound like very many, but it really is if you think about it, because that's just Paducah. I mean, that's just our police department. That's not Kentucky State Police. That's not McCracken County Sheriff's Department. And so we're really beginning to see those numbers rise. And I said, we need to make distracted driving as unacceptable as drinking and driving. No one would ever get in a car with someone that was intoxicated, or people think about it more. If I'm getting ready to go home and my driver is intoxicated, I'm not going to get in the car with them. So why do we get in the car and allow that behavior to continue when they're texting and driving? So if I'm in the car with you, Daryl, and I look over and you're sending a text message to somebody, I'm going to call you out on it. I'm going to say, hey, sitting right here.
I do know this, by the way.
Hey, my life matters over here. Put the phone up. I tell people, help your person out that you're in the car with. So you're in the car with them and their message goes off. Just say, hey, let me read that for you, or I'll tell you what that email says. Well, when we travel here at work, usually there's a couple of us together, and we'll answer emails and messages for each other all the time. It's just, kind of the right thing to do.
And I couldn't agree more with you there. And I know me and Kayla have started doing something similar to that, if one's riding with the other. But that brings us to the next thing. I don't have a high-tech car. I've got an 08 and an 01. So I'm not faced with these problems. But I know that the newer models, there's speakers in the car. There's, if I'm not mistaken, some of your text messages can come up on the actual display screen. Can you talk a little bit about that and what how has technology cut into this and what you should do and what you should?
Technology is great. We have a world of technology at our fingertips. We have phones now that are computers basically, and the cars have kept up with that. The car manufacturers, and they're adding more and more. But I've also noticed that a lot of those functions will not work when the car is in motion. You can't enter a GPS address when your car is rolling on several cars that I've seen. And they're trying to get you as hands-free as possible. Those text messages, they pop up on the display, but you can set up that'll read it to you. So, the car manufacturers realize the danger, and they're trying to keep technology heading in the right directions to keep your eyes on the road as much as possible. Hillary, my friend, she'll tell you nothing. Turn everything off, keep your eyes on the road and drive. She said those things are all cool, but she said just drive, because she said if that's what I would have been doing, she said I would still be my old self, still be able to work and still be independent.
And that's a powerful message. And, when I was thinking about you coming on the show a couple of weeks ago when we first started talking about it, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, what is distracted driving? Because I can see an argument, as a lawyer, one of those personal injury lawyers, I could see myself standing up in court and saying, distracted driving is all of the following, to include almost everything, a conversation or whatever. So, and I do think that the auto manufacturers are going to keep advancing, and I sure hope there's a day where if your phone's activated, maybe the car won't start. I think that's coming.
I do too.
But I don't know if you've heard how soon that may be, but I think that would, I guess you could probably ever end, every form of distracted driving, but maybe that's headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
I guess after saying all that, do the numbers reflect that? Do the numbers reflect that these incidents are going down, or?
It really, we're hoping that trend, the 124 was a little bit down for us. So, we were pretty happy about that. But overall, the numbers have kind of flatlined. So, and we hope it stays that way and then, keeps decreasing. And I think that the car manufacturers can help with that. Whether it be nothing works in your car when it's in motion, or they get as hands-free as they can. I think they will work with us. There's apps on your phone now that you can't receive a text message if you're in something that's moving. So if you're in the car and your phone senses that it's moving, you won't receive or be able to send a text message. And I know a lot of parents use that for their kids. Of course, the kids, there's ways around that, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, and it looks like we got many topics for many other days. So I guess, I want to start closing up now. Like I said, we had a few bugaboos there at the start, but I think we covered, the bulk of the things we want. Is there anything we left out here? Any other message on distracted driving?
In the words of Hillary, keep your eyes on the road and get to where you're going safely. I also tell parents and loved ones, employers, Daryl, I know you've got several employees there at your office. When your kids, your employees, whoever is on the road, your loved ones, they're on the road, don't send them a text message. Don't send them that message, because it's just enticing them to answer you. Especially your kids, and I've been guilty of it with my husband. I'll send him a text message, hey, where are you? Knowing he's on the road. And I'm encouraging him to to respond to me. And then if I don't get a message back within 5 minutes or so, and then you send the hello, where are you? Just be aware of that. Don't encourage them to respond. Tell them to pull over. I tell people it's okay to pull over the side of the road and respond to a message. It's okay not to respond. Your parents had rather you end up home safely, or your loved ones home safely, and they say, why didn't you respond? Well, I was on the road. There's not a whole lot they can say, to fuss at you about that. Well, I didn't respond to your message because I was driving. Oh, well, okay. So just be kind of aware of that. That's kind of the message I like to send to people, is be aware of when your loved ones are on the road, and try not to send them those messages.
That's an excellent point. And I think probably everybody listening has been guilty of that. And it's like you said, if you don't hear back in 2 minutes, use the hello question mark and all of that. So maybe have some more patience and realize that they may be on the road. And then, what I would say to people our age, and others, we know what life was like to drive a car without a cell phone. We probably spent more time now with cell phones than we did without them. But we know what life was like back before cell phones. So, I know.
We survived it. We did.
We survived it, and like I said, I've really kind of enjoyed it. I knew once I had a stick shift Jeep that I wasn't going to be able to talk on the phone anymore, and especially with the top down and everything. But it's also, in my SUV when I get in, and I can I've done a number of videos on this of just putting my cell phone in there, because you just don't miss anything. And it's like you said, if I've been in the Jeep and needed to make a call, and I'll just pull into an open parking lot or something, put it in park, check the message, make the phone call, whatever, and you really just don't miss that much. And
really, there's really not anything that important to end your life or someone else's, or be critically injured. There's no message, there's no phone call, email, Snapchat, there's nothing. There is no. I've asked the kids when I give my presentation, I'll say, okay, everybody pull out your cell phones. And if you have a message that's important enough to end your life or in someone else's life, be critically injured, suffer a traumatic injury, raise your hand and tell me. And, over 20,000 kids that we've spoken to, no one's ever raised their hand, because there's nothing out there. There's no message.
There's no message that's that important. And, we've been certainly suffering around here from the tragic accident in Marshall County, I think over graduation. And I think that involved distracted driving. And I know as a personal injury lawyer, we were talking about this earlier, of the last 5 car accident cases that we've signed here at my office, all 5 of them, and even a 6th today, is a rear end collision. And most of those time, those rear end collisions are because somebody is on the phone in some form or fashion. So it really does take a whole community. It takes parents, it takes children, what the great work y'all are doing in the schools and getting the information to the kids early, because how enticing it would be for us, back when we got our driver's license, to be armed with a car and a phone. And it's so overwhelming. And then
I'm glad we didn't have them back then.
Yeah, and you think about a 16 or 17-year-old mind and wanting to go fast and trying to impress a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Man, it's a lot to put on a kid, and I think the work y'all are doing is really, really good. So I'm going to take one last check here. So I'll just throw this out to you. So I guess they tell us driverless cars are coming in the next 10 years, and I just wonder what so this dynamic could be changed. It could be something where we could say, hey, stay off your phone for 10 more years, and then you can text everywhere you go. But that's just kind of having some fun.
Yeah, that's a scary concept for us, or for me. I can't speak for everybody, but that makes me a little nervous. Technology does fail. I mean, obviously it took us 3 times to get get ours going here today. So I can't imagine technology failing in a 5,000 pound or 5,000 pound missile going down the road. And technology fails in it, what catastrophic things can happen. So I hope that's a lot further down the road than I think, but we'll see.
I hope so too. I was at a conference out west a little over a year ago, and the conversation was oil, and it got into driverless cars. And we were doing a Skype interview. The group was with T. Boone Pickens, and I got to ask him a question. How is driverless cars going to change this and its effect on the market and the oil and gas industry and stuff like that? And the funny answer he gave me was, at the end was, he said, "Hey," he goes, I'm worried about that first time I'm headed down the road and I look over and see one of those driverless semis coming at me." So yeah, it's something that's coming. Like you said, I hope it's later rather than sooner. So,
right.
But Gretchen, we want to respect your time. We've kept you a long, long time today, and want to thank you very much. We got to have you back soon. Is there anybody, like if any high school administrators are listening, or middle school, college, whatever, how can any of those type people, or even parents, how can they reach out and get more information?
Sure. Any high school, any school, business, civic organization, it doesn't really matter. We'll speak to a group of 1 or 10,000. It doesn't matter how big or how small. If they'll just call the Paducah Police Department and ask for me, just call the main number here. It's 270-444-8548. Ask for Gretchen Morgan. I'm the only one here with that name. So they'll transfer you up to me. My contact information is all over the internet. You can send me an email or whatever. I'm pretty accessible. We have a calendar that starts filling up pretty quickly. So if you want something, definitely reach out to us and we'll try and make it happen.
Okay. Well, certainly want to thank you for your time. Thank you for hanging in there with through the couple of buds. It just kind of got us a chance to practice, and maybe we were better on the third go around than we would have been the first.
I think so. And we'll still be waiting for that golf game. So
yeah, that needs to happen real soon, like in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for everything, Gretchen. And we'll talk to you again someday for sure. Bye-bye. All right. And so that ends our take today on distracted driving with Gretchen Morgan. I want to thank her for coming along. I would tell high school administrators, myself, as well as many other trial lawyers around this state of Kentucky through our Trial Lawyers Association, we do seminars on distracted driving as well, and would be happy to, if you want to get in touch with me. There's typically someone in our Trial Lawyers Association for every school district. So I think I'm the guy for maybe McCracken and Ballard down here, but I can also travel to other places. And we're going to keep, I know you can reach out to Gretchen for more information, and you can also reach out to our office here, and we're going to keep putting stuff on social media in our efforts to end distracted driving and to enlist as many people as we possibly can. So everybody go out there and have a great rest of your Thursday, a big time weekend. Remember to put those phones in your consoles. It can wait. Nothing changes. We're going to end distracted driving. We're going to stop distracted driving. And this is Daryl, and this has been The Daily, and we sure thank you. We'll see you next time.